The planet of fear. The jungle of Koresh was not like other jungles. Its trees were black and tall like towers, their roots twisted like snakes across the soil. Mist covered the ground day and night, and strange cries echoed through the branches. Every species in the galaxy spoke about this place in whispers, because this was the home of the female predator tribe. These alien females were hunters, killers, and rulers of their world. They were tall, strong, with sharp eyes that could see in the dark and claws that could tear through steel. No male alien, no beast, no warrior had ever survived against them. They hunted not only for food, but for sport. They believed fear was the truest taste of life. When a victim trembled before them, they called it the sweetest flavor. Merchants avoided Koresh, smugglers stayed away, and even warlords refused to send their armies there. Every story about the jungle ended the same way: screams in the night, bones left behind, and silence. All feared the female predators, all except one, a human. His name was not written in any record yet, but word spread fast. A lone human soldier had landed on Koresh. He walked out of his small shuttle and looked at the misty trees. He did not wear heavy armor. He carried only a rifle on his back, a knife at his side, and a calm face that showed no fear. Nearby, alien scouts who had been watching the landing gasped. They could not believe it. No one came here alone. No one dared. One scout whispered to the other, "He is already dead. They will rip him apart before the sun sets." But the human did not tremble. He looked at the shadows in the trees as if he already knew eyes were watching him. He spoke quietly to himself, not to calm his nerves, but as if making a promise: fear belongs to them, not to me. The predators were already aware of his arrival. The air carried his scent through the forest. The tribe, huntresses crouched high in the branches, their golden eyes glowing in the mist. They whispered among themselves, "Why does he not shake? Why does he not run?" The queen of the tribe was told about the stranger. She laughed, her voice sharp like a blade. "Another fool comes to die. Let the sisters taste his fear. Bring me his bones before nightfall." But when the hunters moved, they saw something different. The human walked slowly into the jungle, every step steady, every movement sure. He was not rushing, not stumbling, not begging for life. He was watching them, like a predator himself. The jungle grew louder, beasts roared in the distance, branches snapped under unseen feet, yet he did not stop. He touched the bark of the black trees, studied the claw marks left on them. He crouched to inspect broken bones half buried in the dirt. It was as if he was reading the story of the forest itself. The predators felt unease for the first time. Usually victims screamed and cried, but this human smiled. Night came fast on Koresh. The sky turned blood red before the stars swallowed the light, and that was when the predators made their move. From the trees they dropped, tall figures with silver fangs and blades in hand. They circled him in silence, the air filled with their breath. The ground shook as they tightened the circle. The human stood still, his rifle remained on his back, his knife stayed at his belt. He looked at them as if he had been waiting for this very moment. The leader of the huntresses stepped forward, her voice hissed like the wind. "Do you not know who we are? We are the death of all who step here. Do you not fear us?" The human's eyes met hers without flinching, his voice calm but strong. "I know what you are, but fear is a chain, and I do not wear chains." The circle grew tense, claws flashed, and whispers spread among the huntresses. Never before had prey antsy aired like that. Never before had a victim looked at them with steady eyes. In the shadows, the young huntress who had never seen a human before felt her heart beat faster. This was no ordinary creature. Something about his stillness, his courage, was different. The leader hissed louder. "Then you will prove it, human. If you survive our jungle tonight, you will live to see another dawn. If not, your bones will join the rest." The human simply nodded, as if the challenge was nothing more than a walk under the stars. The predators melted back into the trees, their golden eyes vanishing in the mist. The human was left standing alone in the silence of the jungle, but the silence did not last. The ground shook as a roar ripped through the night. Something massive was coming. The first trial had begun. First encounter. The night of Koresh was alive. The mist danced around the trees, glowing eyes flickered in the darkness, and every sound carried danger. The human walked with slow, steady steps, his boots pressed against the wet ground, but his heart stayed calm. He knew they were watching. He could feel their eyes cutting through the shadows. The female predators never waited long. They wanted to taste fear quickly. They wanted to hear the cries before the kill. But this time their prey walked like he belonged to the forest. He touched the leaves. He listened to the growls in the distance, and he whispered, "Come then, show me why the galaxy fears you." From above, branches cracked. 3 huntresses dropped to the ground, their bodies tall and powerful, their skin marked with tribal scars, fangs glinting in the moonlight. They moved in silence like shadows made flesh, each step closer and closer. The human did not reach for his rifle. He only raised his eyes to them, calm as if meeting strangers on a road. The first huntress tilted her head, confused. His face carried no terror. No sweat rolled down his skin, no shaking in his hands. She spoke in a low growl. "Every species trembles before us. Why do you stand still?" The human answered softly, "Because a fear is not my master. I have seen war. I have seen death. You are not greater than that." The words echoed in the jungle like a challenge. The other huntresses hissed, their claws sliding out, their golden eyes narrowed. They were used to tears, to begging, to screams, but this human spoke as if they were equals, not monsters. More predators dropped from the branches until a dozen of them formed a circle. The mist thickened, the air heavy with tension. The leader stepped out, taller than the rest, her crown of bone showing her rank. She stared at the human with eyes that could freeze blood. She spoke with authority, her voice cutting through the night. "You are bold, human, but boldness dies fast here. We are the tribe of Koresh. No male survives us, no beast defies us. Why do you not bow before death?" The human kept his stance. He looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Because death bows to those who refuse to kneel." The circle erupted in whispers. Claws scratched the dirt. The hunters looked at one another. Never had such words been spoken to them. Never had prey spoken like a predator. The leader hissed, "If you truly fear nothing, then you will face the trial. You will walk through our jungle under the eye of the tribe. If you live until dawn, you may speak again. If you fall, your bones will sing in our fires." The human nodded once, his voice steady. "Then let us begin." The huntresses scattered into the trees, their eyes glowing faint in the branches above, watching him, waiting for the jungle to eat him alive. Hours passed. Strange beasts stalked him, creatures with 6 legs and dripping fangs, but the human moved with skill. His knife flashed. His traps caught 2 beasts in silence. He killed not for hunger, but for survival. His calm never broke. The predators whispered among themselves in disbelief. Every other species had fallen before the first hour, their cries filling the night. But this human kept walking, steady as stone. Near dawn, the leader of the tribe grew restless. She wanted to see him herself. She leapt from the trees, landing before him, her eyes burning like fire, her voice sharp. "Enough games, you survived the beasts, but can you survive me?" The human looked at her, the queen of hunters herself, and smiled. His hand reached slowly for the knife at his side. He spoke in a low voice that sent chills through the air. "I was waiting for you." The queen struck, her claws sharp like blades. The jungle lit with the clash of predator and human. She was fast, stronger than any alien warrior, but he was faster in spirit. He dodged, rolled, and struck back with precision, each movement showing he had trained for death. She expected fear to cloud him, but his eyes stayed clear. No trembling, no begging, only fire. The fight raged until the queen stepped back, breathing heavy, her golden eyes narrowed. Never before had prey lasted this long. Never before had someone looked into her eyes without breaking. She whispered to herself, "What are you?" The human stood tall, knife in hand, but his voice was calm, only human. The jungle grew silent. The huntresses watching from the trees felt something new rise in their hearts, something dangerous, not fear but doubt. Could it be that the galaxy's weakest creatures were not weak at all? The dawn light crept through the mist. The trial was not yet over, but the legend of the fearless human had already begun. The challenge. The queen of the female predators stood in silence, her golden eyes fixed on the human. She had tested warriors, beasts, and creatures from countless worlds, but never had she met one who looked at her without fear. The circle of huntresses whispered in disbelief. Some hissed that the human must be cursed. Others thought he was mad, but none could explain why he had survived. The queen raised her hand, and the jungle grew quiet. Even the beasts hiding in the shadows seemed to obey. She spoke with a voice sharp like the crack of thunder. "Human, you walked through our night and you did not fall, but words and chants mean nothing. You must face the challenge of Koresh, the trial that no living creature has ever passed." The human's eyes did not shift. He nodded once, his voice calm. "Tell me what I must do." The queen pointed toward the heart of the jungle, where the trees grew darker and the mist burned like acid. "There lies the pit of Ashara," she said. "It is a place of death, filled with beasts born only to kill. Survive one night inside, and you will not only live, but earn my respect." The huntresses roared, their voices shaking the branches. This was not a trial, it was a death sentence. No warrior, no invader, not even their own kind had ever returned from the pit. But the human did not step back. His face remained steady. One young huntress, smaller than the others, whispered to the queen, "He cannot survive. Why waste him?" The queen answered coldly, "Then watch him die and learn why fear must rule." The human was taken to the edge of the pit. It was a canyon filled with black stone, bones scattered like dust. The air reeked of blood and decay. From the depths came roars that shook the ground. Eyes glowed in the shadows, waiting for the next victim to fall. The huntresses pushed him forward, expecting him to resist, but he climbed down into the pit himself, step by step, without hesitation. When his boots touched the ground, the mist swirled and the first beast emerged. It was a creature twice the size of a human, covered in armored scales, its mouth wide with dripping fangs. Its tail struck the stones like thunder. The huntresses above leaned forward, eager to hear his scream, but the human moved fast, his rifle still slung across his back. He drew only his knife, his eyes locked on the beast, the sea. Reacher charged, claws tearing at the dirt, jaws snapping, and yet the human did not run. He rolled aside. His blade flashed, cutting into the beast's neck. Black blood sprayed across the stones. The creature roared, but the human pressed forward, driving the blade deeper until the beast collapsed, shaking the ground. The huntresses gasped. No one had ever killed so quickly. But the pit was not done. More shapes crawled out of the darkness, their eyes glowing like fire, their bodies twisted, claws dragging sparks against the rock. 3, then 4, then 6 at once surrounded him. The human's chest rose and fell, but his focus never broke. He fought like a storm, ducking, striking, cutting, each move precise, not wild like prey, but calculated like a predator. The beasts screamed. One by one they fell. His arms were cut, his chest burned with blood, but still he stood. Above, the young huntress clutched her spear, her heart racing. She had seen warriors die in seconds, but this human fought like he had been born for this pit. He did not cry out. He did not beg. He only moved forward. Hours passed. The pit was filled with carcasses, the stones slick with blood. The human's body carried wounds, but his eyes still burned, and then came the final test. From the deepest shadows rose the Ashera beast itself, the guardian of the pit. A monster that even the female predators respected. Its body was taller than the trees. Its roar shook the stars, its fangs like swords, its breath hot as fire. The huntresses fell silent. Even the queen narrowed her eyes. She whispered, "Now he will break." The beast charged, the ground splitting under its weight. The human dropped his knife and at last pulled his rifle from his back. One breath, one aim, one shot. The sound cracked across the canyon. The bullet tore through the beast's eye. It screamed and stumbled, but it did not fall. The human did not stop. He fired again and again, each shot steady until the giant collapsed in a storm of dust and silence. The pit was quiet. The jungle itself seemed to bow. The human stood among the corpses, covered in blood and smoke. His chest heaving, but his eyes still calm. He looked up toward the watching tribe and spoke. "Is this your fear? Is this all you have?" The queen's face hardened, anger mixed with something she had not felt in centuries: respect. The challenge of Koresh had been broken, and the legend of the human had only just begun. Breaking the fear. The night after the pit was not silent. The female predators gathered around their fires, their voices sharp and restless. Never before had they seen such a sight. Never before had one creature turned their trial into a victory. The queen sat high on her stone throne, her golden eyes glowing in the firelight. She listened as her huntresses argued. Some said the human was touched by demons. Others said he carried forbidden weapons. But one young huntress whispered what none dared to say. Maybe he is simply stronger. The queen silenced them with a wave of her claw, her voice cutting like steel. Strength is nothing without fear. If he cannot be broken, then he is not prey. But if he is not prey, then what is he? Far away in the shadows of the camp, the human sat alone, his wounds bandaged with cloth torn from his own uniform. The firelight flickered across his face, his eyes staring into the flames, calm and steady. He did not look like a man who had fought death itself. He looked like a soldier waiting for the next order. The younger huntress crept near him, curiosity burning in her chest. She had been raised to believe that fear ruled all, that prey lived and died by it. But when she saw the human in the pit, fighting beasts larger than ships, her heart had shaken. She asked softly, "Why do you not fear us? Why do you not fear death?" The human turned his head, his voice low but clear. "Because fear is not the way I live. Fear makes you weak. Courage makes you free." His words struck her like an arrow. No one had spoken to her like that. No one had dared to question the law of fear. She wanted to argue, to hiss, but instead she found herself silent. The queen saw the huntress speaking with him. Her eyes narrowed. She rose and walked forward, the circle of fire bending in her shadow. She looked at the human with a gaze meant to pierce his soul. Yet he met it without blinking. "You have lived through the pit," she said, "but you will face one more trial. This time not against beasts, but against us." The huntresses roared in approval. They wanted blood. They wanted to see their queen crush him. But the human simply stood and answered, "Then I will face you." The queen's lips curled into a smile both cruel and proud. "You are bold, human. But boldness is nothing without scars. Tomorrow you will stand in the circle of blades, and there you will learn what fear truly is." The camp erupted in chants, the sound shaking the jungle. The human did not flinch. He sat back by the fire and closed his eyes, resting like a warrior before battle. That night, the young huntress could not sleep. She watched him quietly. She remembered the beasts falling one by one in the pit. She remembered his calm voice when death stood inches away, and she wondered if maybe fear had been a lie her whole life. The dawn came. The circle of blades was prepared, a wide ground marked with stones and surrounded by the tribe. The huntresses lined the circle with their weapons gleaming. The queen stepped inside, her crown of bone shining under the sun, her claws stretched wide. The human walked into the circle without armor, his knife at his side, his rifle left behind, his eyes steady on the queen. The queen raised her voice so all could hear. "Every world fears us. Every creature dies in our circle, human. Today we break you. Today you learn that even your courage has limits." The human answered, his voice clear across the jungle, "Or today you learn that courage has no limits." The fight began. The queen struck with speed, her claws tearing through the air. The human dodged, each movement sharp and precise. The crowd roared, weapons clashed, blood spilled. But still he stood. The young huntress watched with wide eyes, her chest pounding. This was no ordinary duel. This was a storm. Predator against predator, fear against defiance. As the fight raged on, the queen began to feel something she had not felt in centuries: doubt. Every strike met resistance, every blow answered, every roar met with silence. The human fought not as prey, but as equal. At last she leapt high, claws aimed for his throat, but the human rolled forward, his knife pressed against her chest. He did not strike, he only held it there, steady, his eyes calm. The queen froze, the circle went silent. The huntresses held their breath. The human lowered his knife and stepped back, his voice steady. Strength is not in killing, it is in knowing when not to. The queen's chest rose and fell, her golden eyes wide. She had never been spared, never been treated with respect in the middle of battle. For the first time in her reign, she felt something alien in her heart. Respect for prey, respect for a human. The silence of the circle broke into whispers. The tribe did not know what they had just seen. The law of fear had been cracked, and it was a human who had done it. The trial of blood. The circle of blades had ended in silence. The queen stood tall, but her chest burned with the memory of the human's blade at her heart. She had faced kings, beasts, and monsters across the stars, but never had one dared to spare her. Never had one shown mercy instead of fear. The tribe was restless. Their whispers spread like fire. Some called the human a demon. Others said he was a liar using tricks. But deep inside their hearts, something dangerous had begun to grow. Doubt. The queen would not allow it. She raised her claw and roared across the jungle. His mercy means nothing. His courage means nothing. One last trial will decide if he is truth or illusion. The trial of blood. The huntresses gasped. Even they knew what the trial of blood meant. It was no ordinary challenge. It was death given form, a battle against the great beast hidden in the caverns of Koresh, a creature that had killed even the strongest of their own kind. The human listened without blinking, his face calm, his body still bruised and bleeding from the duel. Yet when the queen declared the trial, he simply nodded and said, "Then show me this beast." The next day, the tribe gathered at the mouth of a vast cavern, the rocks black as ash, the air hot like fire. From inside came the sound of heavy breathing, a growl that made the ground tremble. The huntresses stood on the cliffs above, their golden eyes fixed on the human as he walked into the darkness. Inside the cavern, the air was thick. Bones covered the floor. Skulls of beasts and warriors long dead stared from the shadows. The human moved carefully, his knife in one hand, a torch in the other, each step echoing against the stone. From the deepest corner of the cavern came the beast. Its body was massive, covered in scales that shimmered like molten metal. Its eyes glowed red, its jaws wide enough to swallow him whole. The queen spoke from above. "This is the ash blood serpent, the killer of kings. No one escapes it, not even us." The serpent roared. The cavern shook. Rocks fell from the ceiling. The human did not run. He planted his feet firm and raised his knife. The serpent struck, its body slamming against the stone, its tail whipping with force that split boulders. The human rolled aside, dust rising around him. He struck at its side, his blade cutting deep but not enough to kill. Black blood spilled onto the stone. The huntresses leaned forward, their hearts racing. They wanted to see him break, but instead they saw him move again, faster, sharper, his torch thrown into the serpent's face, fire and smoke blinding it. His knife flashed again, carving into its flesh. The beast screamed. Its tail swept across the cavern, slamming the human against the wall. Blood poured from his mouth. Still he stood. Still his eyes did not show fear. He gripped his knife tighter and whispered to himself, "Fear is the chain. I will not wear it." The serpent lunged again, jaws snapping, but the human leapt forward, running straight into danger. He drove his knife through its eye, deeper and deeper, until the beast roared one final time. Its body shook and collapsed with thunder. The cavern fell silent. Smoke and dust filled the air. The human staggered out, covered in blood and scars. But alive, he dragged the serpent's fang in his hand as proof. The tribe froze when they saw him. No one spoke, no one moved. The young huntress gasped, her heart beating fast. She whispered, "He defeated the serpent. He is no prey." The queen looked down at him, her chest heavy with rage and something else, something she could not name. She had built her tribe on fear. She had ruled the galaxy with terror. Yet here stood a human who broke every law she believed in. She raised her voice, but it shook with the weight of truth. "No one has ever done what you have done, human, not even we." The human dropped the fang at her feet, his voice steady, because fear was never strength. Courage is, and courage is something you have forgotten. The huntresses whispered louder, their faith in the law of fear breaking piece by piece. The young huntress stepped forward, her eyes wide with fire. Perhaps he is right. Perhaps fear is not power. The queen's claws curled tight, her pride burning. If her law fell, then her throne fell with it. She would not let that happen. Her eyes blazed as she shouted, "Then I myself will end this." The truth of Koresh. One fight to decide if fear would live or die. The trial of blood was complete, but a greater storm was about to begin. The queen's decision. The night was heavy on Koresh. The fires of the tribe burned brighter than ever. The huntresses stood in circles, their golden eyes fixed on the center of the camp where the human waited, his wounds fresh but his spirit unbroken. The queen of the female predators rose from her throne, tall and fierce, her crown of bone shining in the firelight. She walked slowly toward the human, every step like thunder. The tribe bowed as she passed, their voices silent, their hearts pounding. She stopped before him, her eyes blazing, her voice sharp as a blade. "You killed the serpent, you faced our pit, you stood in the circle of blades, yet still you breathe. No one in all the stars has done this. No one." The human met her gaze calmly, his voice steady. Maybe no one dared because they wore the chains of fear. "I broke those chains long before I came here." The tribe hissed, whispers rising. They were torn. Their law had always been fear, yet this human spoke with a strength that bent their belief. The queen raised her claw high, her shadow stretching across the fires. She roared, "Enough. Words are wind. Only blood decides truth. If you wish to live, human, you will face me, the Queen of Koresh, in final battle." The crowd erupted, their chants shook the trees. They wanted blood, they wanted to see fear returned. But the young huntress, the one who had watched him since the pit, stepped forward, her voice trembling. "My queen, he has already proven his strength. Why must he bleed again?" The queen turned, her eyes fierce. Silence. "Child, this is not about him. This is about us. Our tribe stands on fear. If he lives without it, then our law dies. If our law dies, we die." The human looked at her, his voice calm but deep. "Maybe, your tribe does not need fear. Maybe it needs something stronger." The queen snarled, her pride wounded, her power shaken. "No, human. Only fear binds. Only fear rules. Tomorrow, we end this." The next dawn, the arena was prepared. Larger than before, stones lined the circle. Spears pointed inward. The whole tribe gathered. The jungle itself seemed to hold its breath. The queen stepped into the circle, her body painted with marks of war, her claws sharpened, her eyes burning like suns. She raised her arms and declared, "Today, we decide. Today, Koresh learns if the human's courage is truth or trick." The human entered, slow and steady, no armor, no shield, only his knife, his wounds still healing but his steps unbroken. The queen struck first, her speed like lightning, claws tearing through the air. The human dodged, rolled, and countered. The clash of predator and man echoed through the jungle, every strike louder, every movement sharper. The tribe roared with each blow. Some cried for blood, others whispered in awe. Never had they seen a fight like this. Never had they seen their queen struggle to land a strike. Minutes stretched into hours. Sweat and blood mixed on the stones. The queen's chest heaved, her arms heavy. The human's body carried cuts, yet his eyes stayed calm, steady, alive. At last, the queen leapt high, her claws aimed for his heart. The human sidestepped, his knife flashing. The blade touched her throat. The whole tribe froze. Silence fell. But once again he did not strike. He lowered the blade and stepped back, his voice carried across the circle. "Strength is not in killing. Strength is in sparing." The queen trembled, her chest rising and falling. No one had ever spared her. No one had ever treated her as equal. For the first time in her reign, she felt something break inside. The weight of fear crumbled. The huntresses whispered louder, their voices foul. Led with confusion and awe, they had been taught fear. But now they saw mercy, they saw courage, and it shook them. The queen dropped to her knees, her claws digging into the dirt, her golden eyes lifted to the human, her voice weak but true. "I do not understand you. I do not understand your strength, but I cannot deny it." The young huntress stepped forward, her voice rising. "Maybe his strength is what we need. Maybe courage is greater than fear." The queen looked at her tribe. their eyes no longer filled with certainty. Their law was broken, their future uncertain. She had to choose, cling to fear and watch her people crumble, or accept the human and lead them into something new. The fires crackled, the jungle whispered, and in that moment the queen made her decision. She rose slowly, her head bowed toward the human, a gesture no one had ever seen, her voice low but steady. "You are no prey, human. From this day, the tribe of Koresh bows to you." The tribe gasped. Their queen had bent. Their law had shattered. The human stood in silence, not proud, not smiling, only calm, as if he knew this moment was always meant to come. The galaxy had feared the female predators, but now they had met something even greater, a human who did not fear at all. The human's legacy. The jungle of Koresh had never known silence like this. The fires burned low, the huntresses stood still, their golden eyes watching the queen kneel before the human. The law of fear, carved in blood for centuries, had been broken in a single dawn. The human did not raise his arms in victory. He did not shout or claim the throne. He only looked at the queen with calm, steady eyes, as if this was never about power, it was about truth. The queen's chest rose and fell, her voice heavy. "For all our years we ruled with fear. It gave us strength but also chained us. Today you showed us another way, human. But I do not yet understand what makes courage greater than fear." The human's voice was steady, simple words carried across the tribe. "Fear binds you to survive. Courage frees you to live." The young huntress who had followed him since the pit stepped forward, her eyes wide with fire. She looked at her sisters and shouted, "He is right. I felt it when I saw him fight. I felt it when he spared the queen. Fear makes us killers, but courage makes us more." The huntresses murmured, their voices uncertain but restless. The seed of doubt had grown into something stronger. The queen stood tall again, her pride wounded but her spirit changed. She raised her claw and spoke to her tribe. "We feared every world. We ruled through terror. But today, one human showed us what we could not see. From this day, Koresh will not be the world of fear. It will be the world of strength." The tribe roared, not with the chants of fear, but with cries of something new, raw and strange, respect. The human looked at them, his voice calm. "You do not have to bow to me. I am not your master. I am only proof that fear does not rule life. Courage does." But the tribe, one by one, bowed their heads, not as slaves, but as warriors, honoring a truth, their golden eyes lowered before the human who had walked into their jungle and refused to tremble. The galaxy beyond soon heard whispers. Merchants and smugglers who once avoided Koresh now carried new stories. The female predators had bowed to a man. The tribe that once hunted all had been humbled, and their law had changed. Many did not believe it. Others laughed. But those who knew the truth trembled more than ever, because if even the fiercest tribe of the galaxy could not break a human, what did that say about humanity itself? The young huntress followed the human as he prepared to leave, her voice soft. "You came to a world where all die, and you walked out alive. What will you do now?" He looked at her, his face calm, his eyes steady. "I will do what humans always do. I will keep walking forward." The queen approached, her pride still in her stance, but respect in her eyes, her voice low, human. "You will be remembered here, not as prey, not as enemy, but as legend. From this day, even we, the predators, will tell our young ones your story." The human nodded. He did not smile, but his silence spoke louder than words. When his ship rose above the jungle, the tribe watched in silence. The queen stood tall, the young huntress beside her, the mist curling around the trees. For the first time in their lives, they felt something greater than fear, hope. The human's legacy spread across the stars. It became a story whispered in dark halls, sung in the markets, feared by rulers and respected by the broken. Every species still feared the female predators, their claws and their hunts. But now they feared something even more, the courage of a human who did not bow. And on Koresh, deep in the jungle, the tribe changed. Their hunts were no longer for fear, but for honor. Their law was no longer terror, but strength, and their queen, Once the shadow of death, now ruled with the memory of a man who had spared her. The legend grew into a fire, a flame that no fear could smother. Every species feared the female predators, only the human did not. And because of him, they never would again. The end. Enjoyed the story? Like it and subscribe for more.